All right, everybody, welcome back to episode number 61 of our little podcast we like to call Facts Over Feelings. Ryan, as DJ Khaled once said, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. And my Arizona Cardinals are winning, 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 no matter what. We got a full slate of stuff to talk about. It's going to be NFL heavy with a little college football and a little bit of a hybrid. We're going to be talking about Urban Meyer's misgivings. But first, I wanted to start the podcast with this. We only talk about relevant things that are, worth talking about. And that crap show from Baker Mayfield was not worth talking about. Anyways, Ryan.
Well, I'm glad you still managed to bring it up. I'm glad you still managed to bring it up. You know, Trevor, I just got to say one thing here. Okay,
go ahead.
Let's just say one thing. I'm not even going to comment on Baker Mayfield here. He knows he played terribly. Everyone knows he played terribly. It is what it is. Okay, no one's talking about the horrible game Kirk Cousins had, all right? The Browns defense stepped up big time, and I don't have much else to say. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Remember.
It's very possible.
Happen.
It very well could happen.
100%.
Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins just remind it's like two peas in a pod. Anyways, I wanted to start by talking about one of the games, and Ryan, I'll hand it off to you to talk about one of your games first.
I appreciate that, Trevor. And I'm going to start off talking about a game that I know Trevor finds boring, but I think it definitely has meaning in the NFL. And that was the overtime game from this past week, the Tennessee Titans and the New York Jets. Trevor, this was quite an interesting game. I don't think anyone expected the Titans to lose. I get the Titans fed trouble. Their offensive line's been terrible. Tannehill has no time to throw the ball. He's getting hit immediately. His receivers are hurt. I get he had no Julio or A.J. Brown. But it's the New York Jets. Okay, they're horrible. They're abysmal. We all know it. Okay, I'm sure the players even know it. Okay, the GM, the coach, they all know it. And they beat the Tennessee Titans. And Trevor, this is notable because this AFC South, Trevor, is terrible. It is abysmal. It is disgustingly bad. And the fact, Trevor, that the Houston Texans could win this division is astounding to me. I mean, it absolutely. And as crazy as it sounds, the Jacksonville Jaguars could still come out of this division. I get they're 0-4, Trevor, but the Titans are 2-2. The Colts, they're 1-3. The Texans, they're 1-3 as well. These teams are really bad. And I think the Titans are still the most talented team here. I think we all know it. But are they that much better? I think we're seeing a team that lost to the Jets, is capable of losing to anybody. So I would be very concerned if I was a Tennessee fan. This defense is really not good. I mean, you let Zach Wilson throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against you, a guy who probably, Trevor, I think has been the most notable rookie quarterback to struggle this year. Like, I get Justin Fields is a really bad game, but Zach Wilson has had a lot of multi-interception games, some lopsided games, some lopsided losses. And, I think that to have him beat you is just kind of demoralizing as Tennessee. And we'll see how they bounce back, Trevor, but I don't know. I was stunned by this game. I didn't expect it. And I think it's worth highlighting how bad the AFC South is. And I guess congrats on the Jets for getting a win, but man, I just can't believe how bad the AFC South is. This is going to be the worst division in football this year. And I don't really think it's going to be particularly close, Trevor. I don't think it's going to be close at all. The NFC East got much better. The Cowboys are great. And the Eagles are playing decently well, at least on the offensive side. Washington's okay. This AFC South is by far and away the worst division in football, Trevor.
That I agree with 100%. The AFC South is terrible. Every year in the NFL, there seems to always be one really, really lopsidedly bad division. It was the NFC East for the last few years, but this year it's going to definitely be the AFC South.
Yeah.
However, this is just typical NFL. Anyone can beat anyone on any given Sunday. We saw it last year with the Jets and the Rams right before playoff time. The Jets go into LA and defeat the Los Angeles Rams, who were a playoff team. Tennessee's going to win this division. They're going to win it easily. They are far and away the best team in the division. They were missing their top 2 receivers in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And yes, their defense is bad, but their defense is it's going to be bad all year. We knew that their defense was bad going into this game. We knew their defense was bad before this game. They can't generate a pass rush. Their secondary seems to give up 300 yards to everybody they face. But I think this is an overreaction. And I get it looks really bad to lose to the New York Jets.
Mm.
But keep in mind, the New York Jets are a desperate team. You know, the Tennessee Titans aren't that good. They're walking into this game with no receivers and a bad O-line and a bad defense. So is it that like unbelievable that the Jets won? Maybe. But again, it's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. And Tennessee is one of those teams that loses to the Jets, but then goes into Seattle and beats the Seahawks. I just think the NFL is weird, and anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. I've said that 3 times now. And I think this is a slight overreaction to it. It is a really bad loss. And if Tennessee were in a harder division and they were competing for the wild card, this is a game that you circle on your schedule and go, if we win this game, this game could have been the difference between us making the playoffs or not. But that is not their case, right? They're in a horrible division. They're going to win this division easily. They'll probably win 10 games. And they're going to get a home playoff game. Simple as. I agree it was a bad loss, but it has no implication on the impact of Tennessee's season.
So let me ask you a question. Nah. There's no chance any other team in the AFC South can win the division. Like there's just
as a betting man, I would put my trust fund on or savings account or mortgage on Tennessee winning this division. That's how confident I am.
Wow, there you go. I mean, look, I definitely agree with you. The talent is obviously far and away in Tennessee's favor here. The thing with me is like, look, the Browns lost to the Jets last year. Like, you're right. Anyone can lose to anyone.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, the Browns had 11-win season last year and they lost to New York. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an abysmal loss. Anyone can lose to anyone. You're right. I think for me, it just highlighted the fact that the AFC South is really, really bad. And like, I don't know. I just, going into the year, I thought Jacksonville would be a little bit better. I thought Indy would certainly be a little bit better. And I thought Tennessee wouldn't start out 2-2. I don't know. It was just, it's a much slower division than I first anticipated. And, I don't know how they fix it. Even when Julio and AJ Brown are there, AJ Brown hasn't really been effective so far this year, and I think a lot of that is the product of the O-line. It's just not good enough, Trevor. It's just, it doesn't give Tannehill enough time. And I think that's something worth highlighting that, even if Tennessee does come out of this division, I think that they're really not even going to be close to a contender like I originally thought. I think a lot of us thought, Tennessee can win a playoff game, maybe, maybe 2, like definitely maybe 1, right? But after seeing their O-line so far this year, and obviously we knew about their defense as you highlighted, I just don't think there's anything there. Like Tannehill just doesn't have the time to get it to his receivers down the field. So I think that it's just more alarming to me than I thought. If Tannehill keeps getting hit like this as quickly as he does, I just don't see how this team does anything, makes any noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think the AFC South is worse than we thought. I think we thought it would be bad. I just didn't think we would think it'd be this bad. Everybody seems to be underachieving. There's no overachieving team, maybe except for the Texans, because I don't think anybody thought they were even going to win a game. So the fact that they won a game and, they were competitive until Tyrod Taylor got hurt against a good Cleveland Browns team, they might be the only team that's actually somewhat overachieved. But again, I just don't think this game has any implication on the NFL season. We know the Jets aren't making the playoffs. It's a pretty safe bet that Tennessee wins this division. And yeah, it's a terrible loss, but for me, it means almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. So that's my take on it.
Can I say one more thing? I just want to shout out Corey Davis and say, thank goodness New York Jets got Corey Davis, because this guy has been far and away their best receiver this year. He's been really good. And I think, Trevor, shout out to you for highlighting him prior to the season. I know you mentioned him for fantasy football specifically. And I think he's the 15th ranked receiver in our league right now, in a non-PPR league. I believe he's 15th. So he's actually been really good this year. So, good shout out by you.
Yeah, I think Zach Wilson will continue to develop a little bit this year. It's going to be ugly. He's going to throw a lot of picks, but he clearly has a decent connection with Corey Davis for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he has a lot of talent. I still think he could be a pretty good quarterback. But Trevor, look, we can move on to a more interesting game, a game with a little more playoff implications, a game that I think you've been waiting to talk about for the last few days here. I don't know if you want to just go ahead, Trevor. Tell us what it is.
Siri, cue All I Do Is Win, 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 No Matter What by DJ Khaled. Anyways, Ryan, yes, we are going to talk about the Cardinals Rams. I know I'm a broken record. I talk about my Cardinals every week. I will be talking
Can't wait
about
till you talk about them on a loss.
We'll see when that happens. It might not happen for a while. You never know. I don't even know where to start with this game. I want to start with this. It's time that my Arizona Cardinals get their credit. I don't want to hear this mumbo jumbo about the Rams having a letdown game. The Rams weren't prepared. The Rams were flat. The Rams were this. The Rams were that. Stop making excuses for a team that just got beat up. right? Why was this supposed to be a letdown game for the Rams? Can someone actually, Ryan, please answer this question. In what way was this going to be a letdown game for the Rams? Real quick
Trevor,
context.
anyone?
Undefeated opponent, divisional game at home. How is this a letdown game? Why should this be a letdown game? Please
Trevor,
answer.
let me tell you this. Anyone saying that is making excuses. All right. There's no reason that should be a reason that the Rams lost this game. All right. The Rams have to take full responsibility. And I think they do and they should. All right. Look, I'll let you get to it because I know you want to talk about your boys for a minute. But I mean, like, this was a game that the Rams were fully anticipating was going to be a tough one. And they were fully prepared. They thought they were fully prepared. Clearly they weren't. Clearly they were missing something. And they got outplayed on Sunday. And we saw that. And I think it was clear that the Cardinals were the better team. Like, no doubt about it.
That was a very good answer, and I'm impressed. Good job. Anyways, I do want to talk about my guys for a second. The Arizona Cardinals, 4-0, only undefeated team left in the NFL. And to talk about this game, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to highlight my man Kyler Murray for a second. This guy, he's special. I've been saying it for a long time now. I said it last year. I said this guy's an MVP candidate at this point last year. He got hurt. He slowed down as the season went on. This year, he's not as DeAndre Hopkins centric. He has a better offensive line. He has a power running game. He has a finesse running game in Chase Edmonds. And he has 4 legit weapons. He has DeAndre Hopkins. He has AJ Green, who has really resurrected his career here in Arizona so far. He has Christian Kirk, who I would say thrives in the number 3 role. And he has Rondale Moore. And Rondale Moore is an electric playmaker for this team. I love how Cliff Kingsbury gets him involved in different ways through screens, through sweeps, through, regular pass plays. And the defense. This is a complete football team. This defense has playmakers. It might not be an elite defense. It is top 10, though, through 4 games, and we have played some pretty good offenses. We're great against the pass. I actually think our secondary has been a real bright spot this year. I think Byron Murphy has been great. Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, who are our safeties, are great. And the one thing I loved about our secondary on Sunday is I loved the physicality with the Rams receivers. Every play, Cooper Kupp was getting hit. There were multiple plays where the ball was 10 yards over Cooper Kupp's head, and Jalen Thompson would come in and lay a hit on him. Right. It wasn't pass interference. It was after the ball was already kind of over his head. But Jalen Thompson would lay a hit on him. And I'm so happy I saw that because these Rams receivers are so good at getting open. They're very good at getting yards after the catch. And I felt like the one way you could slow them down is you be physical with them. And I thought the Cardinals hit them any chance they could. Nothing was easy. Nothing was open. I will say this, Stafford was off. There was a couple throws that he should have made. There was one to Cooper Kupp where that was a touchdown if he makes it. And there was another one to Deshaun Jackson early in the game that was very underthrown, but give Byron Murphy credit. He flew to the ball and made an interception. Just overall, this was a complete game. Cliff Kingsbury, I got to give him a lot of credit. I think people have been very skeptical. I'm very skeptical of him, but I think he has developed a fantastic offense, and he's really cleaned some things up. We're not as penalized of a team as we were last year. I think situationally, other than that 68-yard field goal decision against Jacksonville, he's been a lot better. I know that was kind of a funny one, I'll admit.
Unbelievable.
And the offense is elite. This is the only offense in NFL history to score at least 30 points and gain over 400 yards in their first 4 games. Or maybe it's one of 5 offenses, I think, in NFL history to do that. It is an elite offense. It's the best offense in the NFL. I'll say it right now. Kyler Murray is the clear MVP frontrunner right now. And my Arizona Cardinals are the clear NFC frontrunners through 4 weeks of this season. And one final thing before I let Ryan, bring me back down to earth a little bit. This Arizona Cardinals victory against the Rams is easily the biggest victory of the season and might be the biggest win in Arizona Cardinals football in maybe 5 or 6 years. Go ahead, Ryan.
No way. 5 or 6 years.
That was the last time we made the playoffs. So I would argue that there wasn't a bigger game than that.
Look, so Trevor, here's my take. Look, you already heard me say it a few minutes ago. The Cardinals outplayed the Rams. It was clear.
Badly.
Trevor, I watched this game and, look, after the first quarter, it was like, what's going on here? I saw the Rams march down the field. My boy Van Jefferson, shout out to him, going to be a great player. Robert Woods, who? Robert Woods has literally disappeared from this Rams team, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if he requests a trade. He looks frustrated on the field. He scored a touchdown at the end of the game on Sunday. threw the ball down in disgust, didn't even celebrate at the end of the game. I mean, it was a pointless touchdown. I think Van Jefferson is just kind of he's out getting more targets, getting as many routes, getting as many snaps. I think he's
All
taking
right.
over. Anyway, away from Van Jefferson for a moment. The Cardinals outplayed the Rams. It's clear, both sides of the football. Matthew Stafford was off. It was similar to Baker Mayfield on Sunday. He was just
He
off.
wasn't as bad. He wasn't as bad
but
as
like
Baker Mayfield.
it's similar things. Like Baker's missing wide
Right.
open guys. Stafford missed some throws he should make. Like these, my point is that it was unforced errors, which is something that neither of those quarterbacks, particularly Stafford, over longer career, don't make very often, right? So, let's keep that in mind, but that's no excuse for the Rams. The Cardinals played a great game on both sides of the ball. It was a turnover-free game, Trevor. I believe for the Cardinals. I think
it
so.
Was. Yes, it was.
Which was great. And the defense stepped up. You're totally right. I mean, they couldn't move the ball when it mattered. I mean, they held the Rams to 7 points in the second half, and the one touchdown they had was a garbage time TD. It was pointless. So really, in reality, they held them scoreless, if you want to think of it that way. And I mean, they played great. So I mean, if that defense can keep that up, I mean, that's definitely going to be a very scary team. I don't think they will. I mean, I think they're going to be a little inconsistent. I still don't trust that secondary. I get they have Byron Murphy, Budda Baker, two really good players, Pro Bowl quality players, honestly. But outside of the two of them, I question the rest of that secondary. But, we'll see how it goes over the season. The thing for me is this, Trevor. Okay, and you said, I believe, at the end of your talk about the Cardinals here, you said the Cardinals are the favorites in the NFC right now. I believe that's what you said. Is that not what you said?
I'll rephrase. They're the best team in the NFC right now.
Okay. If you had to predict right now, Trevor, who comes out of the NFC to the Super Bowl, would you say it's the Arizona Cardinals right now? Honestly, as objective as you can be.
As objective as I can be.
Is it the Cardinals right now?
This is why I rephrased. I'm not 100% certain they would come out of the NFC. So they are playing like the best team in the NFC right now. I don't know if they're the favorites, being completely objective.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to point that out is because I think there's a difference here. So we all know that any NFL team could beat anyone on any given day. We know that. We also know that there are some teams that are just more talented and more well coached than others. There's a reason the Chiefs are so good. They have more talent on offense than anybody in the NFL. They have one of the best coaches in the NFL. Okay? Same with the Rams. They have one of the best coaches in football. They have one of the most talented rosters in football. Same with the Buccaneers, the best quarterback to ever play, the best player to ever play, and a very good head coach, along with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Point being, Trevor, we know who the elite rosters are. Okay? And I'm a Browns fan. I desperately want my Browns to be considered in that upper echelon. But I know, Trevor, that the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Buccaneers are the best three teams in this league. And when it comes down to it, I'm taking.
Come on.
And when it comes down to it,
where's my Cardinals?
Look, the Cardinals went from outside of my top 10 to easily top 8, top 7, top 6 even in the NFL right now. They've gained my respect. Okay, they've played better than I thought they would. They played better than most people thought they would. Even you predicted a loss on this podcast just last week, Trevor.
I did.
I mean, so we both know you weren't expecting a win, right? So my point is, while the Cardinals are playing great, well, a lot of these teams, you have, the Raiders were 3-1. They lost last night to the Chargers. The Cowboys are playing really good football. The Browns are winning. The Bills are winning. I think we know at the end of the day, there are 3 teams that are more talented than the rest. And that's just my opinion. I think, point being, the Cardinals are definitely going to make the playoffs. I think that they're a team, a force to be reckoned with, particularly on offense. And I think they could win a playoff game, maybe even 2. But I'm still not taking them over the Buccaneers or the Rams in the NFC. I'm not taking them over the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes down to it. But that's just me.
It's an interesting take. I will say that is a respectable opinion. I think those 3 teams have definitely earned your respect as the top 3 in the NFL based on what they've done in the past. I know we can't spend all night on this, even though I want to.
Take one last note at it. What do you want to say?
I'll take one last note at it. The one thing that I loved post-game was how stoic everybody was. Even Cliff. The Rams, you saw Sean McVay jumping around up and down. Might as well give him some pom-poms after the Buccaneers game. That guy celebrated like it was like he won the lottery, like he won the Super Bowl. And the Rams got cocky, and the Rams probably underestimated us. They knew that we were, they've won their last 8 games against us. They probably were like, hey, Sean McVay's just going to outcoach this guy. My Cardinals come in and stomp them, and post game, what do we say? It's a great win. We're 4-0, but it's one game at a time. And, tomorrow morning, Monday morning, forget about it. So I really love how stoic they've been. I've heard reports that practices are very competitive. Cliff Kingsbury's got these guys competing in practice, starters versus starters, bench guys versus bench guys. And if you want to become a starter, you're going to have to earn your way. And it's reflecting on the field. When the 2 opponents that were expected to beat the Cardinals in the first 4 games got completely obliterated. And I think that says something. That clearly tells me that there is a certain level of preparation going into these games that hasn't happened before. I don't know. And yeah, we had a little bit of a letdown against the Vikings and the Jags. I get that. But I think when we can focus up and beat anybody. But go ahead.
I want to make one last comment. This doesn't go just for the Cardinals, but a lot of teams like the Cardinals and like the Browns and like the Bills, the Ravens, the Cowboys, teams like this. It's getting to the point, Trevor, where at least how I'm feeling, especially this past Sunday with the win over the Vikings for the Browns, like these wins, sometimes, they almost feel like it doesn't even always feel like you win, and it gets to the point where it's like your team is really learning how to win, right? Like you feel like, man, our team didn't deserve to win on Sunday. Like when you beat the Vikings, Trevor, when you beat the Jaguars, like I get it. It was a double-digit win, but like, did you sit there and you're like, man, like our team, like we won, we played a good game today. It's like, well, no, like I would say there's a lot of holes, but it's like, that's the mark of a quality football team, a team that can win when it's not playing its best, a team that can win when it's struggling on one side or even both sides of the ball. So I think that's something to note, not just for the Cardinals or the Browns, but for a lot of these other teams that I mentioned, like the Cowboys or the Raiders or stuff like that. I think it's a mark of a growing team, an improving team.
And real quick, final thing. That's kind of like the crevice of the NFL. Good teams can win when they don't play their best, and bad teams find a way to lose even when they're playing good. That's the difference between a good and bad team right there. Ryan kind of hit the nail on the head. I kind of hammered it down a little bit more. Anyways, Ryan, I know you got one more game you're eagerly. This one's a little bit of a better game. Go ahead. You can talk about it.
I'd say it's definitely a better game. It's between 2 AFC West opponents, Trevor, the Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. Trevor, this game was an interesting one. Justin Herbert put on a show, and I think Trevor, I want to say a lot of people probably thought the Chargers are going to win this game. I think the Raiders, look, we've talked about this before. I'll say it again. They're a good team. They're a quality team. Trevor mentioned it last week on the podcast. They were 6-3 at one point last year. I think the major question mark is, can the Raiders be consistent? And Trevor, from what we saw last night, I would say that I'm not sure. Derek Carr came back down to earth. He had under 200 passing yards last night. He had, I think, averaging over 400 going into the game. So it really, really cooled off. Yeah. Josh Jacobs, I don't think Josh Jacobs is a very good football player personally. So their running game was ineffective. And their defense just couldn't stop Justin Herbert enough. And I think that's probably more of a testament to Herbert because I think that the Raiders defense is pretty good. I think it's much improved this year, Trevor. I think, we've talked about it. We've talked about it at length. I don't really need to go into it. Corey Littleton, you got, KJ Wright, you mentioned Max Crosby, a bunch of good players now this year playing very well this year. But it wasn't enough. And so I just question if they can be consistent, but I think the Chargers are legit, Trevor. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the wild card. I also think they could easily win a playoff game come playoff time. And I would be scared to play them, Trevor, because they are balanced on both sides of the ball. They have a solid defense. Asante Samuel Jr., Trevor, is going to be a very good corner in this league. I like what I've seen through the first 4 games from him. He's played really well. Derwin James back healthy is really, really big for this team. And I don't even need to say much about Justin Herbert. He only had 220 yards passing, but nearly a perfect game, Trevor. 3 touchdowns, no picks, sacked twice, but I mean, he played really well. Austin Eckler played a sensational game, averaging 8 yards a carry. Getting involved in the passing game, he was really good. I really like the balance of this team. And I think that's why, Trevor, I think they could win a playoff game because, they might not be on the same talent level of the elite teams that I mentioned earlier, or even the second tier teams of the Cardinals, the Browns, the Bills, those kind of teams, the Cowboys. But this team is well balanced enough where I think they could easily win a playoff game. They could make a little bit of noise. And, Trevor said it before, and I'll repeat what he said. Herbert's going to be a problem, not just for the AFC West in general, but for Patrick Mahomes specifically for years to come. He'll steal some games like he did earlier this year. And I really like that you said that in past weeks, because I think that we saw it again from this game last night, that Herbert's going to be a problem.
I agree with a lot of what you said. One thing about the Chargers defense, and this is actually really impressive, in their first 4 games, every opponent that has played the Chargers defense has scored their lowest amount of points of the season of the first 4 games. So I think that's pretty damn impressive. When your defense holds the opposing team to their lowest offensive scoring total, that is a very good sign, and that will help you win a lot of games. Number 2, I think this defense is completely different when Derwin James is healthy. He's kind of the quarterback of the defense, the leader, the safety. And I think he brings this defense to another level by himself. I agree Asante Samuel is also going to be a very good corner. I want to talk most about Justin Herbert. I've been very high on him. I told Ryan, and Ryan mentioned it again, that I think this guy can rival Patrick Mahomes. And I really think he can. I think he has a level of maturity and a level of control in his game that's very rare. It reminds me a lot of like Joe Burrow in terms of like, he's so in control of everything when he's on the field. He never seems flustered. The Chargers completely trust him. They're not limiting the playbook for him. They're not trying to cover up his weaknesses. The Chargers are just saying, hey, go throw us the ball. And you ask, how do you know they're doing that? Well, 4th and 9 against Kansas City, they're going for it at the end of the game instead of kicking a field goal. Every 4th and 5 and under, they're going to go for it this year. They just have a full trust in Justin Herbert to make the play. And keep in mind, Justin Herbert has only started 19 games. This guy is only scratching the surface of how good he's going to be. That's all I got to say about him. He has been fantastic. I'm a little biased. He is on my fantasy team, but I still think he's an unbelievably good player, and he will get a lot better. Finally, about the Raiders, Ryan said this about the Cardinals-Rams game. He goes, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, they have the best rosters. Therefore, they are my favorites to go far in the playoffs. Yeah. The Raiders were 3-0, but the Raiders do not have an elite roster. They have good players on both sides of the ball, but they have bad players on both sides of the ball. I don't think their receiving core is that great. Yes, it's better. Henry Ruggs is definitely – their O-line is not great. Henry Ruggs has definitely taken a step forward. Renfro's a solid target. Darren Waller's solid. But, it's not a great receiving core. It's not bad. They have no running game right now. Offensive line, a large part of that. Josh Jacobs, I don't want to say he's a bad football player, Ryan. He hasn't been healthy. He is playing on a bummed ankle. He didn't look great last night. It looked like he was playing a little hurt, and I give him props for that, but he was not effective at all. And look, the Raiders just aren't that good. I don't know if I said they're a contender on the last podcast when we played that game of undefeated teams. This team can make the playoffs. I just don't think they have a good enough roster to really make noise. I think they're a slightly above average team. I think they're in the ballpark of like 11 to 14 in terms of best teams in the NFL. And that can get you a bottom end wildcard spot, but that's not going to make any noise beyond that. And Derek Carr, he's a little inconsistent. He always has been throughout his career. He had a great start to the season, but he wasn't great yesterday. Only threw for 196 passing yards. I know the Raiders were 3-0 and, there was a lot of hype around them. I just don't see it with this team. I agree with you, Ryan. I think the Chargers are a better team than the Raiders. And if it came down to it, I think the Chargers would make a playoff, would make a wild card spot over the Raiders. Final thing I'll say about this game, give the Chargers a lot of credit. That was a road game for them. There were probably two-thirds Raiders fans. And that might be on the lower estimate side. I thought that was a complete road game for the Chargers. Give them a lot of credit for winning that game.
I do want to say I don't know if the video's from this year or a previous year, but I'm pretty sure I saw a video of Derek Carr talking about how this is basically a home game for us. He's like, look, like
it is.
He's like, look, we treated this like a home game. He's like, I don't want to be rude, but it's just the way it is. And I was like, wow, like that. Trevor, and this is a topic for another time, but why did they move the Raiders and not the Chargers? My goodness gracious. Keep the Raiders in Oakland and move the Chargers. Like, my gosh. So that –
they moved both,
Yeah, but I don't know.
You're saying the Chargers should have gone to Las Vegas.
I'm saying the Chargers shouldn't even be in LA, right?
I
Like
agree
they
with
shouldn't,
that,
right?
but
Like,
that's
and even when they were in
money driven.
even when they were in San Diego, it was still a struggle. I mean, not as bad as this, but it was still a little bit of a struggle. But Trevor, I mean, look, I don't have much to add. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I think the only way the Raiders make it over a team like the Chargers in the playoffs, in the wild card, is discipline and coaching. Like it's just the only way. Like, can the team limit turnovers? Can the team, just make a better play? Because they're not going to out talent teams. They're not going to out talent many teams, Trevor.
No, they're not.
They just don't have that much talent on that roster. So the best way they can do it is just through playing as a team and playing and having great plays drawn up, and just being on the same page. So we'll see if the Raiders can continue to their hot start, I suppose. Starting off 3-1. We'll see if they can bounce back with the win next week. But Trevor, we can move on to your second game, our final game slated for this podcast. And it's a game that, I'm interested to see what you have to say, because watching this game, Trevor, it really wasn't very exciting, if I'm being honest with you.
No, I'm going to talk about the game a little bit, but I have a conspiracy theory. And this is not an original conspiracy theory. I saw something on TikTok that makes me think that this could happen. First, I'll talk about the game. Pittsburgh's done. Ben Roethlisberger's done. His arm looks shot. I don't know how else to put it. I don't think Ben Roethlisberger throws the ball more than 5 yards down the field, except for that one play to Deontay Johnson. Pittsburgh's screwed for this season. Green Bay looks good. They've definitely recovered nicely after that. Probably one of the worst losses in Aaron Rodgers' career, week 1, 38-3 to a bad Saints team.
Yeah.
Which leads me to this. What did Tom Brady do? He left average weapons in New England, switched conferences, and went to a team with elite offensive weapons. Think about Pittsburgh for a second. Think about Aaron Rodgers. It's already been mutually stated that Aaron Rodgers will be parting ways with the Green Bay Packers after this season. Average weapons outside of Devontae Adams. Bad tight end.
He's going to go to Vegas, by the way.
I don't know where you got that from, but that's an interesting take. We'll talk about that later. Aaron Rodgers switching conferences to the AFC to a team with, I would say, 3 legit receivers. And if you can build an offensive line around him, a really good running back. Is it that crazy to think about Aaron Rodgers playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year? It makes somewhat sense to me. They have elite weapons, a really good receiver trio, right? They have a bad O-line. Ryan hit the nail. Ryan has been on this Pittsburgh O-line since before the season started. Kudos to him. That O-line is terrible. They can't run the ball. Najee Harris, I believe, is a solid running back. I've seen him in college. He was special at Alabama, but every running back looks special at Alabama, to be fair. And then I think about this defense. When healthy, I think this defense is better than Green Bay's, even though I think Green Bay's defense is actually pretty good. I just think this is a great fit for Aaron Rodgers if he's looking to win a Super Bowl ring. I have no reason to believe that Dwayne Haskins is a better option for this Pittsburgh Steelers team post this season than Aaron Rodgers. Deshaun Watson ain't coming back to the NFL. He's got a lot on his plate right now.
Yes, he does.
Who else is out there? Aaron Rodgers is going to be a free agent. It has already been said that this is his last year in Green Bay. Pittsburgh, if I'm you, I'm thinking about getting this guy because you can win a Super Bowl with Aaron. If Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, they might be the odds-on favorites in the AFC next season. I think I'm just saying, Ryan, I think it could happen. I sound crazy, but it makes sense for both. It makes sense.
Look, if you're talking about fit, like, you're definitely right. Here's the thing, Trevor. As a Browns fan, I really hope you're not right. I really hope that's not going to happen. For me, I think there are a fair amount of places Aaron Rodgers could go, right? I know he was interested in San Francisco. I know Denver has been a landing spot I've thought about a lot that would fit
worse
really
weapons.
well.
Both those teams have worse weapons.
I think Denver might have all right. I don't know. I think if Juju
Denver
leaves, do they?
If Juju leaves, Denver's close. Actually, San Francisco with Deebo Samuel and Kittle is also not bad either, but continue on.
And also, to keep in mind, Pittsburgh has no line, like as I said, as you mentioned. So,
right.
There's a lot to think about. Point being, it's definitely possible. I think it could be a possibility. And look, talking about this game, Big Ben is just like he has no mobility. He's done. He's washed. someone needs to talk to him and be like, look, you're hurting our team. Like he just is.
He is.
He threw one deep ball and it was to Deontay Johnson for a pretty wide open touchdown, Trevor. It was a pretty easy pitch and catch. I don't see it anymore. He has no mobility in the pocket. He can't throw down the field, especially not consistently. And it's hurting this team. I mean, Najee Harris, Trevor, in week 3 had 19 targets. The running back had 19 targets.
It's a lot of dump offs.
What is your quarterback deal? Like, you can't win like that. Maybe you can win like that in the FCS in college, but not the NFL. That's not going to work. So at this point, Trevor, someone needs to have a conversation with Big Ben. If it's not in the middle of this year, it's certainly at the end of the season, making sure he retires or like they're going to cut him, like that kind of thing. Like he's hurting this team, and I don't know how much longer they can keep this team together, Trevor, because they're riding right up against that cap line, and they have been for a few years now. So we'll see. But it's tough for Pittsburgh because I'm happy, because they're our rivals, but man, they're really wasting away a lot of talent on that team on both sides of the ball, really, because Big Ben just can't get it done. Sure. Look, the reason I said what I said about Devontae Adams is very simple. He went to the same school as Derek Carr.
Oh my God.
They talked about this in the offseason. This was a thing. They talked about this. Devontae Adams and the Raiders, I'm pretty sure in the offseason they mentioned this.
Think maybe at a bar he came up to Derek Carr. He's had a couple drinks. He goes, "Hey man, it'd be really cool to play with you in Las Vegas one day." This is just such a non-story.
No, I'm just telling you, like they have their good friends. They went to school. I'm just telling you, if Rodgers leaves, you tell me Devontae Adams wants to stick around. You're telling me Devontae Adams wants to stick around without Aaron Rodgers. You think he does?
I mean, who knows? If they pay him enough, who knows?
I'm just telling you, that's what I heard between the two of them. And if and when Rodgers leaves, that would be by far the favorite destination. And if he went there, Trevor, that would then become, to me, a much more dangerous team. But that's a story for another day.
100%.
I mean, I think that'd be very intriguing to have Devontae Adams in a Raiders uniform. I think that'd be kind of fun. But that's my little rumor tidbit that I wanted to throw in. I'm sorry I interrupted you earlier there, but I don't have much else about the actual game itself here. The Packers, Roger said it a few years ago to tell everyone to relax. That's what they should have done after week 1 this year as well. They bounced back fine. He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. He was always going to figure it out. And, this offense is good. Randall Cobb looking like his vintage self. And hopefully Jair Alexander doesn't miss too much time because Alexander did get hurt. I believe it was his shoulder, Trevor. I believe it was his shoulder. And so we'll see how long he's out for, but for their sake, I hope he doesn't miss too much time because he's obviously, one of, if not the most important part of that defense.
Good points. I didn't really want to talk about this game too much. I just wanted to talk about this TikTok theory that I saw, and I actually thought it was kind of a cool idea. San Francisco ain't happening. Trey Lance is there. Denver could happen. I could definitely see that, Ryan. But I think Pittsburgh could also happen. So with that being said, time to move on to a funny topic. I've been looking forward to talk about this for a while, actually.
Oh boy.
Ryan and I wanted to talk about Urban Meyer and what he has done right and what he's done wrong. And simply put, he's done nothing right. And
he has not done much right.
Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people saw the footage of him last weekend at Ohio State's Parents' Weekend. He was not behaving professionally with some young ladies at a bar in Columbus, Ohio. Obviously, those videos went viral. And I think the more telling part is Urban canceled the team meeting on Monday. Instead, he met with individual groups to apologize to them, but he didn't meet with the whole team at once and address the situation and put it to bed. And to me, I think he's lost the locker room.
He definitely has.
And it shows. It shows that college football and the NFL is a very different game. Just because you've mastered one doesn't mean you're going to be good at the other. And it goes both ways. Jim Harbaugh, he has struggled at Michigan. He was very good as a San Francisco 49er. Nick Saban failed in the NFL, is the greatest college coach of all time. Urban Meyer, arguably is one of the best college coaches of all time. And he seems to be failing badly in the NFL. It's just a very different game. And I want to talk about some of the decisions Urban Meyer has made. Number one, bringing in Tebow, looking back, hindsight was so stupid. It was a publicity stunt. It was a stunt without, I think that's the best way of putting it.
Sure.
Tebow's 33 years old. He hasn't been in the NFL for 5 years. And now you're going to bring him out to training camp to compete with guys that have put in work 24/7 every day. To
Playing
me, as
baseball
a
last year.
player, exactly. To me, as an NFL player on that team, that is insulting to bring some has-been off the streets to compete for my position, right? I think that was a bad decision. Didn't help with the locker room. Number two, I am very pro-vaccine, but Urban Meyer was going to cut players over the vaccine. I don't think that rolled over
That
well
wasn't
with people.
allowed. Yeah.
That wasn't allowed. And I am pro-vaccine. I encourage everybody to get it.
Yep.
But making decisions solely based off of someone's vaccination status is not a great idea. Number three, the college video thing that we just saw from last weekend.
Yep.
And number four, and this is going to be a controversial statement, I just don't think in today's society does a 65-year-old white male with no NFL pedigree translate well. It doesn't work today. I just don't think it will work. I don't think it goes over well. It's hard to win the locker room. I think you need a younger NFL coach with NFL playing or coaching experience. Doesn't have to be black, doesn't have to be any particular skin color. But I'm just saying an old white male with no NFL experience, I don't think that was a great hiring decision by the Jags. It is a controversial statement. Might have some merit to it, might not. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
So for me, talking about that final statement first, the thing I think is that's worth highlighting is that at the end of the day, college coach doesn't equal NFL coach. I think that's really all there is to it. I think that's kind of, where it begins and where it ends for me, because I think that there are a lot of great NFL coaches that are young and old. And when talking about older coaches, I will say a lot of them, and I talked to Trevor about this, they're slower to embrace the analytical side of football. And I think that's personally more important as a head coach, making smart decisions. And there are a lot of guys, and Bill Belichick has, for example, as an older coach, has embraced analytics. Was one of the first teams to embrace analytics actually in the NFL. But there are guys like Pete Carroll is one of the most notable ones who refuses still to make the right play, make the right call on fourth down. Fourth and 1 on the opponent's 47. You don't punt the ball. Ever. You never punt the ball. And, you got to get the new age in there. So in that regard, I agree with you. You have to get the new age in there. Kevin Stefanski, he's what, a 45-year-old head coach, had no head coaching experience previously. But the important thing is he knew not only how to communicate properly with the players and develop rapport with them, but he knew when to make the right analytical decision. He's one of the most aggressive head coaches in football. He's actually the most aggressive head coach in football, Trevor. He goes for it more than I think any coach so far this season.
He does.
He's been very, very, very aggressive. And I love it because it's the way football is trending. You got to be a smarter as a head coach. You got to use what's in front of you. You got to use the numbers and make the right decision. And there are a lot of coaches ignoring that. And I think Urban Meyer is one of those. But, at the end of the day, I think your statement makes more merit to me in regarding to the fact that he's just a college coach, and you can't treat NFL players like college players. You can't treat training camp like you can,
Agreed.
College practice. You can't. These guys are adults. They get paid millions upon millions. These guys aren't athletes that are just at most making money off their likeness and just are students. They're much different atmosphere. And it doesn't work with a lot of these college coaches, a lot of these great college coaches, because they're stuck in their old ways. And they work in college. They do. But they don't work in the NFL. And we see it a lot with college coaches coming in. I could name countless college head coaches who have failed coming into the NFL. Trevor named a few. Obviously there's a lot more. Like Chip Kelly, there's a lot of them.
I was thinking of him.
There's a lot of them. And I think at the end of the day, this was kind of a disaster waiting to happen. He's just a better fit as a college coach. Some guys are just better fits with younger players and students and recruiting, the process of recruiting, as opposed to just drafting and having players on your team. So I don't know. I think this is a disaster from the beginning, and he's become a distraction to the team. I think that like it'll be interesting, like how much this is pressed by the sports media because it's been pretty heavily pressed. And I don't know if he's going to make it. It looks like he's going to make it out with his job for now. But it's just interesting seeing how much publicity this got because like I get it was like a it was a disaster and it was like a idiotic thing and a terrible thing for head coach. He's going to lose the locker room, but like this got an insane amount of press, Trevor. And it was interesting. I know Stephen A came out today and was like he shouldn't get fired for this, and I didn't actually see what exactly he had to say about it, but I don't think he should be fired for this. I think he should be fired for being a bad head coach, and I think this just it's kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill. It just adds up as you go along, and eventually it's going to reach a breaking point. Eventually it's going to be too much for this team. He's already lost locker room. I think he gets fired. I think they're going to try to get to the end of the season, but I don't know if they're going to make it there, Trevor.
You bring up a lot of good points. It's hard to say if he's going to last the season. I don't know. I don't know if this video is the breaking point. Should he solely be fired for the videos online? I agree. No, he shouldn't. But that's not the only thing that's happened. I think that's the issue at hand.
Exactly.
And he hasn't made any decision that's notably gone well. I don't think he's brought in the wrong players. He's tried to bring in training staff that weren't qualified for the job. In previous jobs, he's had ethical issues as is. And now this video, it just seems like a lot of fireworks for Jacksonville. And this is a team that's rebuilding. This is a team that's been losing a lot. And I feel like this is just not the type of guy they need to turn this franchise around. With that being said, we're actually going to talk about some college football now. I know we haven't done that very much in the last few weeks on this show. Ryan, in our little podcast notes here, has Alabama and Georgia with about 7 greater signs than everyone else. And he's totally right. But take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Trevor, I think what everyone saw this past weekend was, wow, we're going to have some great college football. It's going to be some great games. It's going to be Bama versus Ole Miss, a top 12 matchup, and Arkansas versus Georgia, a top 10 matchup. 2 absolute blowouts. Terrible games. Just
that Arkansas game.
An absolute joke. And I think, Trevor, what we learned here is there are 2 teams and there's everybody else. And there's a lot of quality tier 2 teams, the ones that jump out to me, Penn State.
There are.
There's Penn State. I think Ole Miss is a tier 2. I think, a lot of those
Iowa.
SEC teams, Iowa, I know Oregon lost, but they're there. Cincinnati, definitely a tier 2 team. A lot of tier 2 teams, but they are so far beneath Alabama and Georgia, Trevor.
I totally agree.
It's more apparent than ever. And I don't know if it's going to become a problem. I don't know if anyone can beat these 2 teams. I know it's an SEC gauntlet, so maybe someone can, and maybe I'm overreacting, at this past week, Trevor, but wow, like what, it was suffocating. It was just a suffocating performance. I mean, you have these Arkansas players talking trash coming in this game, averaging over 450 yards of offense a game, and they had 150 last week. It was disgusting.
It felt like 15.
Yeah, I mean, it was abysmal. So, and they lost 37-0, something like that. I mean, it was terrible.
And that was Georgia's backup quarterback. That wasn't even a starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm. They ran for almost 300 yards, Trevor. I mean, it was a joke. I mean, and this is an SEC defense. These defenses are all pretty solid. But look, at the end of the day, my only point here is I think that these 2 teams are far and away better than everyone else. I think it's a lot of fun this year, Trevor, watching these tier 2 teams go at it. You got Kentucky beating Florida. I think Kentucky is really a quality football team now, by the way. They're going to make some noise, just this year, but in upcoming years. They've been getting better for years now, sneaking into the top 25. They should be in it this week now.
They are.
Point being, there's a lot of quality tier 2 teams in college football. Make for some great games, Trevor. But these 2 teams in Alabama and Georgia are just so far ahead of everybody that I really don't know, barring a catastrophe, Trevor, if we should even be in doubt of the 2 teams they're going to meet in the playoff or the national championship game.
No, there's no doubt in my mind who's going to the national championship game. And I really hope the committee doesn't do this because Georgia or Alabama will lose in the SEC title game. And no matter what, both those teams better be in the top 4. It's clear as day that they are the 2 best teams in the country. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out Arkansas because they really have turned their program around under Sam Pittman.
Yes.
They did get blown out last week by Georgia, but in literally, I think 2 years ago they didn't win an SEC conference game. I think there was a stretch where they'd gone 3 straight years without winning an SEC conference game, and now they're a 4-1 football team who beat Texas A&M at a neutral site and will have a chance to win again this weekend against Ole Miss. So shout out Arkansas. They've had a really quick comeback. They will be good in years to come. I think the issue with college football is, and actually not the issue, the reality is Alabama and Georgia just have better players. They only have 4 and 5 star recruits. I mean, Georgia's entire defense might go to Georgia's entire defense might go to the NFL. Like, they just have better athletes. They have better players. It's not even close. And again, it has been an issue with college football for a long time. There seems to be a monopoly at the top between the same 3 or 4 teams: Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State. And then there's a bunch of tier 2 teams that can kind of crack it every once in a while. Oklahoma, Notre Dame, who is grossly overrated every year.
Yes.
Penn State, the Iowas of the world, Texas A&M, Florida's. But there's 3 or 4 teams that have kind of monopolized college football. I will say this year, Clemson and Ohio State being worse is better for the game because it will open up opportunities. It will open up at least more opportunities for a Cincinnati, hypothetically. I think Cincinnati, if they go undefeated, they might make the playoff. And I think it's pretty feasible that they go undefeated. I don't see a game on their schedule where I think they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They already went into Notre Dame and won. They're 5-0. They're going to be favored in every game going forward. Cincinnati might get in the playoff this year, which I think is great for college football, even though they'll lose by 40 to Alabama in the semifinal. I think it's great to see a mid-major team or a group of 5 team make the playoff. And then there's going to be a lot of teams vying for that 4th spot. Iowa, Penn State, Michigan is being thrown into the mix right now. BYU is 5-0. Ohio State will be in it at the end. Oklahoma, even Texas. Texas is 4-1. If they beat Oklahoma this Saturday, they're right back in it. So we'll see. But I think it's good for college football that at least Clemson and Ohio State are having down years. But yeah, Georgia and Alabama are way better. It's not even close.
Yeah, I will agree with you. It's good that they're having down years. And I wanted to note that Cincinnati, they won't maybe make it, Trevor. They're 5th in the country right now in the AP poll. They will undoubtedly make it if they finish the season undefeated.
The problem is the committee does weird things at the end of the season. Like Ohio State will have a better strength of schedule even with a loss. We'll see.
Yeah, you're right. I will say though, this win against Notre Dame was big, and then also
it was huge.
They do play my SMU Mustangs later in the year, and SMU is ranked. They're currently 24th in the country.
That's big.
So
that's big.
Like if since he does win that game, they'll have another ranked team under their belt. I think really that'll be able to propel them to the top 4, which would be a great story, by the way. Having a non-Power 5 conference team make the college football playoff is great. And I also think, Trevor, we're destined for a 6-team playoff in the future. I really hope it happens sooner rather than later.
I've heard it.
Yeah, 12. We've talked about this, Trevor. I think on past podcasts. I think 12's too big. Yeah, but I think 6 is ideal, but I think it'd be more exciting, because you get more of those really good tier 2 matchups between teams. But it's good that Ohio State's having a down year, and Clemson in particular, all the way out of the top 25. I mean, wow.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, just like Did that
they lose again?
I think so. Or I don't actually know. All I know is I don't know, because they did get the most votes out of teams that didn't make it. So I don't.
They barely beat Boston College. It was
I think they barely won. So they're actually technically 26th. If you count a team with the most votes that didn't make it at the top 25. But still, I mean, that's just crazy, right? That they, that they're not in the top 25, considering they were just dominating for the past few years. But Trevor, it'll be interesting to see. I do want to shout out Cincinnati, and I'm glad you mentioned them because they have, a great defense, some great NFL prospects, and they also have a great quarterback. Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in the next draft. What a name, by the way. Is a great player for Cincy on that defense, and they really showed out this past week against Notre Dame. So just credit to them, and I think it'd be awesome if they made the top 4 because they could easily make it, and I think they definitely deserve it. So,
and look, they competed with Georgia last year in that was it the Peach Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or whatever game it was?
I don't remember, but yeah.
They gave Georgia a run for their money, and Georgia's team wasn't as good last year, but it was still a good team.
Yeah.
So Cincinnati has proven they can compete. They beat Indiana, who was supposed to be good at the beginning of the year. Indiana's kind of been horrible. They went into Indiana and beat them on the road. They went to Notre Dame and beat them on the road. So they have challenged themselves in the non-conference. And I agree with Ryan. I think it goes a long way. I want to talk about one more thing real quick about college football. Save yourself the time and your eyes when you watch the Pac-12. Don't watch Pac-12 college football. It's abysmal.
Really bad.
I wish Oregon won because Oregon was the only relevant team nationally, and then they lose to a 2-2 Stanford team. I don't get it. Don't watch University of Arizona football either. It's even worse.
Wow. They might drop out of top Power 5 play soon. My goodness.
Yeah, we might rejoin the WAC at this rate. But anyways, Ryan, I don't have anything more for this podcast. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, no, I think that just about does it for me. I think this is a great podcast. I'm glad we got some college football in. I got my shout outs for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, so I'm good. And Cincinnati.
I want to give a shout out.
College football.
I want to give a facetious shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers who lost by 36 tonight in their preseason game to the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. Look, folks,
starting off strong.
Folks, I didn't know we're supposed to care about preseason, but
when you play your starters 25 minutes, yeah, I'd care a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently to Trevor, we have to dominate in our first game back. So look,
and don't lose by 40.
Evan Mobley, look, Evan Mobley had a good game, and that's all I care about. Okay, that's all I care about. He played well. Game. Yeah, he played well.
Yeah, he was a -23. That's actually tied for.
I mean, how much did the team lose by, Trevor? Tell me.
36. Darius Garland was a -38. You guys were actually better when he wasn't playing.
See, Mobley was only a -23. We were a lot better with him on the floor.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. So look, I'm glad you got to get your little dig in on my Cleveland Cavaliers. But look, hey, when the Phoenix Suns lose in the first round of the playoffs this upcoming season, I'll get the last laugh. So it is A-okay, Trevor.
He doesn't believe
that. A-okay. I'm excited. Maybe they'll even miss the playoffs. Who knows? But look, that about wraps up our podcast. I'm glad we got to end it on that. And folks, I hope you enjoyed. And we'll be back next week. So we'll see you then.
Go Cardinals.